Good evening, you're watching No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Well, the shocking story has come tonight of the arrest of Mohammed Zubair, one of the founders of the fact-checking website Alt News. He's been arrested by the Delhi police this evening on charges of hurting religious sentiments and promoting enmity. The case is based on a complaint made by a Twitter handle this month which alleged that Mr. Zubair had tweeted a questionable image to deliberately insult the god of a particular religion. And that tweet, the police have admitted, was posted back in March of 2018. That is what has happened to Mohammed Zubair, the co-founder of Alt News, which is a fact-checking website that has been busting fake news, whether it's about the BJP's IT cell, about things the government's been putting out, even the opposition states, all across the board. That's the kind of work Alt News has been doing for several years now. In fact, it was Mohammed Zubair, through his string of tweets, that fact-checked and put out what BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma had said about the Prophet, which had led to the kind of viral backlash that we saw against her comments on the Prophet in Gulf countries as well. And since then, he faced a barrage of new cases. My colleague Arvind first joining us with more details on Zubair's arrest. Arvind, what do we know about this old tweet that's been cited now for hurting religious sentiment?
Yeah, Nidhi, Delhi police has arrested Mohammed Zubair, the co-founder of Alt News, the fact-check website, for allegedly hurting religious sentiment and also promoting enmity between two communities. So this particular case has been registered, a fresh case has been registered by the Delhi police for his tweet dated 2018. So that's something that Delhi police is yet to defend or even clarify. Why for a tweet that was dated 2018, why action now? So also very interestingly, Mohammed Zubair was called for questioning today in a completely different case. In that particular case, he got a interim protection from the Delhi High Court. So when he was summoned for questioning in the first case, Mohammed Zubair promptly appeared. This particular case was registered in 2020. In that particular case, he has already got interim protection from arrest from the Delhi High Court. So he promptly appeared before the Delhi police to join the investigation. But surprisingly, Delhi police came up with the second FIR and he has been arrested. So what we are being told is that this second FIR was registered in sometime in June this year, that is 2 or 3 weeks back, based on a complaint from a Twitter handle. And taking cognizance of that particular complaint, Delhi police has registered this case against Zubair for allegedly hurting religious sentiment and also promoting enmity between two groups. But also very importantly, like his legal team is raising the question, why no notices were issued to him? Also, why arrest no? The timing is very important, because though if the Delhi police is saying that this particular tweet is dated 2018, but why arrest no? That's something Delhi police has not yet clarified. Also very importantly, like you mentioned, Zubair also brought out, he was the first one to bring out this particular a controversial statement that was made by a BJP spokesperson in a TV channel, in a news debate. So after that, a barrage of attack has been that has been posed against him. But now Delhi police has arrested him. So what we are being told is that he has been arrested because he refused to give his devices from which he posted these tweets. So that's something, again, we have to wait and watch for how they will defend in the court. But what we are being told is that he will be produced in the court tomorrow, where the police will seek for further custody.
Let's see what the courts do in this case, because the honorable judges of the Supreme Court and the honorable Chief Justice of India do keep saying that they're here to protect the fundamental rights and liberties of citizens of this country. So they are going to be on test now in this case. Joining us first on the program tonight is Mahua Moitra, Trinamool Member of Parliament via Zoom. Mahua Moitra, your first reactions to this? In fact, we've seen a number of opposition leaders coming out very strongly condemning Zubair's arrest, from yourself, Shashi Tharoor, Rahul Gandhi, Asaduddin Owaisi, across the spectrum.
Yeah, Nidhi, it's absolutely shocking. I mean, especially when you see, the Delhi police lately in the last 1 or 2 years have pretty much given up any pretense of following the law. And in this case, under 153A, 295A, these are both sections for which the punishment is less than 7 years. So the Supreme Court in the Amrish Kumar judgment has laid out very clearly that any section which has a punishment less than 7 years, that you have to give notice except under very exceptional circumstances. And in this case, what is the exceptional circumstances that warrants bypassing of the guidelines? And this is complete abuse of prosecutorial discretion, A. And the second thing is, if you see for what Zubair has been arrested, he's been called in for something else where he's got protection from the Delhi High Court. They've arrested him on something else. The whole thing is cloudy. Now, the hilarious part of all this is, if you look at Miss Prince Sharma, the fringe element, Ms. Sharma, she is meanwhile being protected by taxpayers' money and has not been arrested. Now, I think the sections under which she had been charged have also been exactly the same, 153A and 295A. So, I mean, at least keep some semblance of what they call Aankhon ki sharam. Keep something. There is no due process of law. It is just out there and open. And I can imagine the BJP doing this. But when the police of the Delhi city, of Delhi state does this, it is shameful. And we all have to stand up because we're all going to be next. They're coming for all of us now.
But Mahua Moitra, do you see a sort of a bigger pattern here of going after dissent, going after those who have, called out the ruling establishment or criticized them, or, Zubair certainly was, in the forefront of that, but as a fact checker, as a journalist, which is what he's been doing, not just about the BJP, but across parties.
What the BJP and what the current dispensation hate more than anything is today fact. They dislike fact. And they dislike truth, and they dislike anything that is logical, and 2 + 2 = 4. And that is what Zubair stands for. That is what Alt News does. And frankly, they call out everyone. If I put out something that is not correct, Alt News will call that out. Now, they hate anything that they like to live in this world of make-believe and fiction and propaganda, where only the truth that the BJP puts out is the truth. So someone like an Alt News, someone like a Zubair or a Pratik is fundamentally at odds with the basic DNA of this dispensation. So obviously this is something that we knew this would happen, but I'm surprised that it is happening so fast and with absolutely no thought to due process. I think with each win, for example, they won these 2 seats in UP, and now they think that, actually the people of India are endorsing this. I think with every win that the BJP get in some random bypoll somewhere, they seem to think that now this has emboldened us even more. Indians want this. People are liking this. We don't have to listen to the law because Indians are rewarding us in the ballot box for all of our actions, be it bulldozing, be it arrest, be it clamping down on dissent. Unfortunately, this is what's happening.
But so, Mahua Moitra, what would you say to those people who are actually celebrating Zubair's arrest today? And there are plenty of them doing it right now, thinking that it would never happen to them.
Like I said, what the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And Gandhi said something. He said that whenever in history you have seen that something is seen unsurmountable and that truth will never triumph, in the end, truth has always triumphed. So I think we keep strong and we keep our spine straight and we just stand for what is right because history will judge us. So This will end. This cannot go on.
Mahua Moitra, thanks very much for joining us there. Mahua Moitra, Member of Parliament from the Trinamool Congress there, strongly condemning Mohammad Zubair's arrest. Also joining us, Supriya Srinath of the Congress Party, Mr. Shant Prakash from the BJP, Shadan Farasist, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court is with us, and journalist Aditya Menon joining us as well. Let me get to you first, Shadan Farasist. Just in terms of due process that Mahua Moitra was referring to here, has all of it been tossed out of the window, prima facie, from what you've heard?
Yeah, thanks. Just one correction. I'm an advocate at Supreme Court. Senior advocate means a designated senior advocate. So slight correction. Now, I think it's absolutely, it's prima facie malafide, I think. You call somebody for a case under which he has protection. He bona fide believes that he has protection, he comes. You keep another FIR either in the pocket without disclosure to him, or you register it at that very moment. That too for a 2018 post. That's 4 years old. That by itself is malafide. I mean, if a court were to just apply its mind and say, why have you registered? The idea is to arrest him one way or the other. I will find an excuse. It's written, the record shows that. So I think it's prima facie malafide. I hope whichever magistrate they produce him before, is able to see it. He at least has proper legal access. At least the tweets Pratik has put out, I don't even think he's allowed access to his lawyers yet. So, even to put forth these points, you need a lawyer. I just hope that something as blatant as this is called out by the courts right at the beginning, that is even at the level of the magistrate. We don't even need to go to a high court for this, because this is something very fundamental and basic.
Right, but Shadan, just looking at the charges, you again would have seen the Delhi police statement about which sections, etc., promoting religious enmity. Now, does that apply so many years later? Nothing has happened because of that tweet. That was back in 2018. So just from a legal perspective, if nothing has happened, does it stand scrutiny in any court, in your view?
No, so that's one reason why a FIR should not have been registered so belatedly, because if those words have not been acted upon by anybody, then those words have not been seen as creating disunity among group. That's proof of the pudding, that those words were not actually hateful if they have not further caused any action on the ground. So definitely, if you register something 4 years later, it clearly shows that you are registering for something which really wasn't a problem to begin with. And I think in addition, these are all 295A, 153A are less than 7 years. It has, normally you would send out a notice unless the person is likely to escape or something like that. That's not the case. He's presenting you before him, he's presenting himself before you, that is the police, for another case. So he's not going to escape. So where was the question of arrest? He should have been sent a notice under 41A first, and then a response should have been sought. And if he was not cooperating, then there could have been potentially some angle to arrest. But this prima facie is just blatant misuse of police power.
Aditya Menon, your first thoughts on this story tonight. Aditya.
It's shocking as a journalist because Zubair was doing a stellar job. Prateek Sinha has been doing a stellar job. They have created this culture of fact-checking in the country. We all of us owe a great debt to Mohammed Zubair. In the recent controversy, it was purely due to Zubair's efforts that Nupur Sharma's case was exposed. And that the government had to face questions, very, very tough questions abroad. So it does, I mean, one would probably, one won't be wrong to think that he's being punished for putting the government in such a spot. And the tweets that have been put out, we don't know what those tweets are. He was brought for one case and arrested in another case. So it's really quite murky and very disturbing as a journalist.
Aditya, what is the message you think that is being sent out with this arrest?
I think the simple message is don't mess with us. And if you do, this is what will happen to you. Unfortunately, that's the message I would take from it as a journalist.
Supriya Srinath, we've heard from the Trinamool, we've heard Rahul Gandhi, a lot of opposition leaders come forward in this case. Your first thoughts on this. I mean, like I said, Zubair wasn't just fact-checking the BJP or the establishment. He's been fact-checking everyone, including you guys.
Absolutely, and he's called us out on multiple occasions, and which is why when free speech is going to be stifled, I think whether you're being called out or not, you've got to stand up and talk against it. And Nidhi, let's not get caught in the, in the legalese of these cases. 2018 tweet, he had come, one week suspension. Let's not get caught into that. This is the mighty Indian state at the helm of which Mr. Modi and Shah are telling people who are doing their jobs of telling the truth, of breaking through fake news maze, of calling out hate speech, that if you are going to do that, we will put you behind bars. Because quite frankly, the message is, and very loud and clear, is reporting hate speech is a crime. Committing hate speech is not a crime in this country. I mean, what explains the fact that Zubair is behind bars, but Nupur Sharma, Yati Narsinganand, Bajrang Muni, I can go on, and all of these people are scot-free. They are being given political patronage at the cost of taxpayers' money. I hate to say this, I think it's a very sad day for democracy. The Prime Minister, and I think the Congress apologized for it. The Congress feels sorry for the fact that there was an emergency. But the reality is that the Prime Minister, who talked about an emergency less than 24 hours back, is stifling free speech in this country. And kudos to what Zubair and his team have done, which is to call out hate speech, to bring facts to book. And he has done it on both sides. Let me be honest here. He's not just called out the BJP, but it has been uncomfortable. It has put them in the spot. It has made them act against their own and call them fringe elements. And this is just payback time. I mean, what is he in jail for? For bringing the truth to us? For breaking through the
well, I think
lies?
as you said, making a hate speech will get you bail, but reporting it will put you in jail, and that's exactly what seems to be happening. Mr. Shant Prakash of the BJP is with us. Shant Prakash ji, you think this is justified, arresting him for a tweet in 2018 which had no law and order repercussions whatsoever?
बड़ा ताजुब हो रहा है कि हिंदू देवी देवताओं के ऊपर गलत मैसेज करना, उनके गलत फोटो लगाना, और उस पर आज कोई पुलिस ने कार्रवाई की है। सभी दल उसको शॉकिंग कह रहे हैं और उसको उस अपराध से मुक्त करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं जो उसने 2018 में अपराध किया। आज इन सब दलों को एप्रिशिएट करना चाहिए कि यहाँ पर पुलिस ने जो है कदम उठाया है कि किसी धार्मिक भावनाओं को ठेस पहुंचाना या उसके प्रति उसके संदर्भ में गलत लिखना, उस पर पुलिस ने कोई कार्रवाई की है। इसको जोड़ा जा रहा है दूसरे जिन लोगों ने हेट स्पीचेस किए हैं उन लोगों के कारण से, जो आज दिल्ली पुलिस ने कार्रवाई की है, इसको मुक्त नहीं किया जा सकता। दिल्ली पुलिस ने अच्छा कार्य किया है और शुरुआत हुई है हेट स्पीचेस और दूसरे धार्मिक भावनाओं को भड़काने वाले जो लोग हैं उनके खिलाफ उनको अरेस्ट करके जो उन्होंने आज ये कदम उठाया है, ये अच्छा एप्रिशिएटेबल कार्य।
लेकिन 4 साल से तो आपको इस ट्वीट के, आपने इस ट्वीट के बारे में कुछ सुना भी था? 4 साल से कुछ हुआ ही नहीं, तो आज क्या हुआ? शांत प्रकाश जी, आज क्या हुआ?
जब शिकायत हुई, शिकायत के बाद में उसके ऊपर कार्रवाई हुई है और ये कार्रवाई जो है, ठीक है, 2018 की कार्रवाई, अगर उसके ऊपर आज शिकायत होती है उस पर कार्रवाई हुई है और दिल्ली पुलिस ने उस पर एक्शन लिया है, इसको सबको अप्रिशिएट करना चाहिए।
हाँ, सुप्रिया, गो अहेड।
मुझे भाजपा के प्रवक्ता की एक बात बहुत अच्छी लगी। उन्होंने कहा कि अगर किसी ने किसी और के धर्म को भड़काने का खिलाफ काम किया, आप नुपुर शर्मा को गिरफ्तार कब कर रहे हैं, आप बताएंगे मुझे? क्योंकि उन्होंने एक धर्म के पैगंबर को जो शब्द कहे वो मैं यहां पर रिपीट भी नहीं कर सकती हूं। कब जेल में जाएगी नुपुर शर्मा, इसका जवाब आप दे सकते हैं? पहला सवाल। और दूसरा सवाल, आपने हिंदू देवी देवताओं की बात करी, मुझे एक बात बताइएगा, हिंदू धर्म में तो औरतों को देवी के तुल्य कहा गया है। यति नरसिंहानंद ने औरतों को ही नहीं, आपकी पार्टी की महिला मंत्रियों को जो भद्दे शब्द और भद्दी बातें कही, उसको आपने जेल में नहीं डाला। महात्मा गांधी को एक आदमी मां बहन की गाली देता है, आप उसको 10 दिन में रिहा कर देते हैं, 1.5 महीने तक उसको पहले जेल में नहीं डालते। आप कौन से दोगलेपन की यहां पर बातें करते हैं? क्या हिंदुस्तान का कानून आपके लोगों के लिए एक है और बाकी लोगों के लिए एक है? क्या सच बोलने की हर वक्त इस देश को इतनी बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी? क्या आप यहां पर कह रहे हैं दिल्ली पुलिस ने सही काम किया? ये वही दिल्ली पुलिस है जिसने 21 साल की एक एनवायरमेंट की एक्टिविस्ट को, दिशा रवि को गिरफ्तार किया और फिर मुंह की खानी पड़ी कोर्ट पर क्योंकि केस नहीं प्रूव कर पाए थे। ये वही बेवकूफ दिल्ली पुलिस है जो रिहाना के खिलाफ भी केस कर रही थी। बिकॉज दिल्ली पुलिस टुडे इज नॉट एन इंडिपेंडेंट पुलिस फोर्स।
शांत प्रकाश जी, आप जवाब देंगे?
ऑफ द होम मिनिस्ट्री दैट इट रिपोर्ट्स टू, दैट इज द ट्रूथ। करिए ना नुपुर शर्मा को गिरफ्तार, तब मैं मानती हूं कि आप धर्म के भड़काने के खिलाफ काम करिएगा। नुपुर शर्मा को आप पॉलिटिकल पेट्रोनेज और प्रोटेक्शन देंगे और जुबैर को गिरफ्तार करेंगे क्योंकि वो आपके झूठ का पर्दाफाश कर रहा है। शर्म आनी चाहिए आप लोगों को। And yes, I'm agitated. And yes, I'm angry. I'm extremely angry with what is happening in my country at your behest, under your patronage.
Let him answer. शांत प्रकाश जी।
सबसे पहले तो मैं सुप्रिया जी से कहना चाहूंगा कि दिल्ली पुलिस को बेवकूफ कहना ठीक नहीं है। वो हमारी सम्मानजनक सुरक्षा बल है। इस तरीके से अपमानित है, ऐसा अपमान नहीं करना। आप एक अच्छी पार्टी की राष्ट्रीय प्रवक्ता हैं, अधीर ना हो। और सही मायने में जिसके बारे में आप बात कर रही हैं वो सब लोग अधिकांश बेल पर हैं, उनको रिहा, उस जो अपराध उन्होंने किया उससे वो मुक्त नहीं हुए हैं, उन पर कोर्ट में केस चल रहा है
जेल में डालने के लिए, और 10 दिन के अंदर आपने उनको रिहा कर दिया। 6 महीने लगे थे आपको गिरफ्तार करने में।
यहाँ नहीं किया, पहले आप उसको समझें। वो बेल पर छूटे हुए हैं और उन पर केस चल रहा है।
नुपुर शर्मा को तो गिरफ्तार भी नहीं किया, बेल की तो बात ही नहीं है।
यहाँ पर बैठ करके आप लोगों को भड़काएं भी नहीं, वो सब लोग बेल पर हैं और जो जहाँ पर जिसका अपराध सिद्ध हो
आपके लोग करते हैं।
शांत प्रकाश जी, मैं आपको याद दिलाना चाहती हूँ, सुप्रिया, आई जस्ट वांट टू रिमाइंड मिस्टर शांत प्रकाश that Yati Narsinganand was given bail on the condition that he would not repeat the hate speeches that he had made in the Dharam Sansad, and he did it, and he has not been arrested. He has violated his bail conditions and he has not been arrested. Now the question is, and let me come back to Shadaan Farasat on this issue, because Shadaan Farasat, I said it half sarcastically in my introduction, but it's actually true. When you hear our esteemed Supreme Court judges giving lectures in foreign universities and all these various fancy places talking about freedom and liberty and protection of civil rights, etc. I'm sorry, but let's call it out for what it is. The courts have failed to uphold their duty when it comes to this in recent years. Therefore, is this a test case or not? Whether they are able to throw this out, as you said, this should be thrown out by a magistrate. It shouldn't have to go to the High Court.
Yeah, no, these days, every day we have a test case, right? Like there's no day without a test case because something outrageous is happening every day. And you are right. I mean, I think it's important that judges, the principles they espouse publicly, should also reflect in the orders that they pass and the judgments that they give. And I think that's essential for a functioning judiciary in which people have complete belief. So with that, I would say that it's absolutely essential that judicial authorities at all levels act in blatant cases, especially where personal liberty is being targeted and people are just being targeted for the views they hold. Which may in a given case be against the government. And like you said, I mean, Alt News has been they have been very balanced across the board. They bust the fake news of the left, the right, everything. It's just a fact that there is more fake news which comes from the right today in India, and therefore they probably bust more of that. But they are otherwise absolutely, completely professional. So it's just really sad the state of affairs we are in the country. I think every day is a new shock, and it just seems to be unending.
Aditya Menon, is it going to be enough for people to just tweet outrage about this? Does there need to be a sort of, do people need to speak up in whatever way they can? Is it time to break that silence? Even if it's just on Twitter, but to begin with, to just break that silence and say that this isn't right.
Absolutely. And I think we must also acknowledge that Zubair is targeted because his name is Zubair and his name is not Aditya Menon. We have that privilege, and therefore it's incumbent upon us to acknowledge that and to speak out. And Mohammed Zubair was doing his job, Siddiq Kappan was doing his job, and these people are in jail just for being good journalists who are reporting facts. So yes, all of us, we really have to speak out against what's happening. And even if it is on Twitter, if there's some more collective thing that can be done from the fraternity, nothing like it. But I mean, I don't have very high expectations from this, given the kind of polarizing role some of our fellow journalists have played in this matter, including those who gave a platform to someone like Nupur Sharma without correcting her.
Absolutely. Supriya, last word to you. Where do we go from here?
Nidhi, I usually never give personal bouquets or brickbats, but kudos to you for speaking on this, because large sections of Indian media should stand for the truth. Actually, they should stand for one of their own. A journalist is arrested for doing what large sections of Indian media should be doing, which is busting fake news. But look at how conspicuously silent almost all sections of Indian media. So kudos to you for doing the show. But I think we will stand for him. We will stand for what he stands for. He's going to bust fake news, whether it's ours or anybody else's. And the right wing, the BJP ecosystem, the Bhakt Mandalis will have to learn with their lies being called out. Stop lying or learn to live with how they're going to be called out. I think what the mighty Indian state is doing is exposing how big a coward Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah really are. They're just exposing their cowardice more than anything else.
Have to leave it at that tonight. Thank you very much to our panelists for joining us. We'll be following this story closely tomorrow as well. Good night.